Updated, my sister and mother demand I watch their new baby 3 days a week. My 25 female younger sister 21 female is pretty pregnant, and for the last few weeks, she has been demanding that my significant other 27 male and I babysit her newborn every weekend, Friday morning to Sunday evening, so she and her significant other 21 male can have some cool time off from being parents, just to not overstress. Each time, I've laughed at her and shut it down with a quick, "Nope, I won't be." And she gets mad I'm not helping her out. Yesterday, she got our mother involved, and Mom called me and asked me why I was being a self-centered witch and so selfish and that she didn't raise me this way. I told her I'm a grown woman with my own house and life, and that if I wanted to watch kids as a second job, I'd freaking have some. She sputtered out something about me being a horrible person, then hung up on me. My significant other and my one aunt 100% is with me. However, my mom, dad, and the other 900 family members and friends, they got involved, are calling me out on Facebook and blowing up my phone. Quick edit for a few of the same comments coming up. My mom knows the full story for what my sister is asking. She essentially did the same thing with me when I was a bit older. She sees no issues with my sister getting this as well. I've never had a good relationship with my family, besides 16 female sister, aunt, and grandparents. I talk to mom, sister, dad, maybe twice a month. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Your mom, dad, and the other 900 family members can watch their kid then. Problem solved. This. Tell them to freaking do it themselves. They as grandparents need to be doing it for their grandkids, not you. I am a grandma of 3 and another one in November. I take the kids whenever I can have them, but that is my choice. Stand your ground. You don't get weekends off from being a parent. Paraphrasing another saying I've heard, raising children is like fighting a gorilla. You don't get to stop when you're tired. Lol, what? So let me get this straight. Your sister and her significant other are having a baby, but they want every weekend off so they can have fun while you watch their child? Every weekend? Yeah, sounds like they should have thought twice before getting her pregnant. That is not how that works. I had my son at 21, and guess what I did at most weekends? It's called being a parent. Ridiculous entitled nonsense is what I'd call your sister's behavior, and I absolutely fail to understand why your family's agreeing with her. If your parents think she should have every weekend off, they can watch the child. Oh yeah, my cousin has 3 kids, and guess what she doesn't have for the past 12 years? Right, a free weekend. Everyone is lucky if they have grandparents to watch the kids for an afternoon. But if you sign up for the little ones, then you know that some freedoms are gone for a while. To be fair, a free weekend every now and then is very nice, and I would have gone bonkers during 12 years without one. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for a favor sometimes. But I ask my friends and family if they could possibly watch the kids for an evening or the weekend. Occasionally. Like someone who's well aware that this is a favor. What sane person expects someone else to take care of their child every weekend? Given the fact that mom immediately had her back on the idea, I'm going with someone who has probably gotten away with making various unreasonable demands a lot in the past 21 years. And now for the update. Hey everyone! Thank you so much for the support on my last post. Thought I'd share an update and answer some questions now that the baby's here. A lot of comments mentioned that our mother and sister probably spun some sort of tale about how I was just refusing to help period, not take over 45% of parenting. And, well, no. Those who I spoke to knew the entire story. They agreed that 2 21-year-olds need a break from parenting. Our mom did it with me, so why shouldn't sister get the same courtesy? Whenever family/friends message me about babysitting, or give me crap about it, my favorite response has been, "You're right, I am selfish/responsible/whatever, and probably not fit to take the baby this weekend. But I can be sure to let sister know you volunteered your time this week to help her out." Funny enough, everyone seems to have some generic excuse as to why they can't or won't. I worked all week, it's my wind down time. Not my child, not my responsibility, but somehow it's mine? And my all-time favorite response, it is your responsibility as the oldest to ensure your siblings don't make mistakes. And if they do, you take responsibility and don't let them ruin their lives over it. They're still kids who need to have fun. You had your turn. People of AITA and r/entitled parents, Please take a moment and reread that last response. What would your reaction or response be? Baby has been here just under 2 weeks now, and my sister, her significant other, and our mother have left multiple messages and voicemails about when they will drop the baby off, their expectations for when I have the baby, routines, etc. And besides a quick not watching your baby this weekend, I have not answered or responded about it. Then my significant other and I took some advice and invested in a doorbell camera and a few others around the house. And as most of you called it, my mother and sister attempted to drop the baby off at my doorstep 6 days after it was born, knocked and tried to run. I spoke through the doorbell and told them they have exactly 2 minutes to pick baby back up, or I was calling CPS for abandonment. My younger sister, 16 female, called me about an hour afterwards, explaining that our mother had attempted to leave the baby with her as well, but it only earned mommy dirty look, while youngest sister simply stepped over the carrier and walked out of the house. She has been staying with us since. Significant other and I have spoken to younger sister to see how she would feel, and we have a meeting with a lawyer to see if we have any ground to stand on for sister to come and live with us permanently, as our parents are threatening to call the police on my significant other and I for kidnapping/holding younger sister as a hostage. Oh, before I forget this level of beautiful pettiness, our aunt, the only one who has supported us, surprised younger sister, significant other and I and took us out to her cabin for the weekend, where youngest sister posted pictures and tagged our mother, sister, and her significant other. Man, such an amazing weekend. Sure wish you guys were free to join. Edit. A few commenters mentioned wanting to know more about the doorbell reaction, so neither of them knew about the doorbell. It was a mix of shocked Pikachu and some kind of ragey raccoon faces that they didn't just get away with it. My mother started to argue, but I cut her off by starting to count down. My sister quickly picked up the baby and they both left without another word. I would highly recommend that you consider calling CPS and reporting that they even attempted to leave a 6-day-old child with you via Ding Dong Ditch. Hopefully this was the last of it, but have it reported and on file. So if it continues, there is a pattern of neglect there to back your side. Absolutely. I'd turn over the doorbell video as all the evidence they need. That girl should not be allowed to care for that child. I have a feeling something awful is going to happen to it, and they're going to blame Opie for not taking on some of the care. What awful people to have as your family. I'd include copies of the text messages and emails where Opie clearly stated that they would not watch the baby this weekend, and then a clip of them dropping and running away. What if Opie and their significant other had left for the weekend to avoid them, instead of installing the camera? Who knows how long the baby could have been laying there before they were found? The fact that you're taking your younger sister shows what a wonderful person you are. I hope everything goes well with the lawyer's office. Please add a second update about how your appointment goes. Agreed. She doesn't have to worry about her 16-year-old sister becoming an involuntary nanny. Bonus? It also frees up Opie's mom to watch the grandbaby on the weekend. Because now Opie's helping with a kid, just not the kid they want. This is crazy. How the hell do you just drop off your newborn? I had both my kids by the time I was 21. I got my girlfriend pregnant twice. I was/am an idiot. And we rarely use babysitters. We both worked full-time jobs. She worked during the day and I worked at night. My mom used to come over every once in a while and take the kids because she never got to see them. Not in a bad way. We just handled our own mess, and my mom wanted to see her grandbabies. It might have been different if my mom had watched them all the time, but then it would be more like a chore, and not a day out with her grandkids. They need to grow up. And your younger sister deserves a chance to be a kid, not a live-in nanny for her lazy sister. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not sharing my nanny with the family? First of all, I do not have a nanny. I have an amazing best friend named Willow. I also have 4 children, ages 12 to 1. Willow is childless and does not like kids. She does, however, love mine and they all adore her. Even my bonus baby girl cries when she leaves to go home. She will always offer to watch the kiddos if we want some alone time, and has kept them overnight more than once. Now, every summer, my husband's family likes to rent cabins by the river, and Willow usually tags along. By day 3, she offers to hang out with the kids at the cabin. I know her well enough to know that she is usually done with the sun, the water, and brother-in-law hitting on her by this time. She always says that this time with her godkids is the real reason why she comes. This year, when the restrictions were lifted in our state, we came up to the lake. At around 10, The baby was asleep on Willow. The adults were drinking. She does not. And brother-in-law was being creepy. So she announced that she was tired and offered to take the kids back to the cabin. Day 3 comes, and she, of course, asks if she can have the kids for the day. Later on the lake, sister-in-law made a joke about asking Willow to watch all the kids tomorrow, but we left it off. When we came back that evening, the kids announced that they were camping out in the living room with Aunt Willow. I asked Willow if she minded if we just went out to the resort lounge, and she was quite happy to kick us out. The morning of checkout, Willow made breakfast because it was her turn, and, of course, my sister-in-law had to comment, "You cook for them too? Wow." After we returned, I got a text from my sister-in-law calling me a snob for bringing our nanny on the trip. I told her that Willow was not my nanny, and that she paid her own way. She then called me a witch because I saw that they were all tired and frazzled, and that I could have at least asked Willow to watch all of the kids. I told her she was crazy, and I wasn't going to ask my best friend to watch 12 children. She doesn't even like children. My mother-in-law called soon after to apologize and ask for Willow's number. She told me that maybe if she paid Willow to watch my sister-in-law's kids for a night, she would get over her jealousy. She then proceeded to lay out a plan where my best friend would be passed around like some kind of mammy. This would probably be a good time to mention that my best friend is black. I just hung up on her. My husband thinks that I should have at least asked Willow before I said no. I told him that I wasn't going to put her in that kind of position. He is downstairs right now, still trying to placate his mother. I can't ask any of my siblings' perspective because I know that they are also jealous of the kind of friendship that Willow and I have. Now I am torn. Maybe I should have asked her if she wanted to help out. Did I overreact? Am I the a-hole? Edit. To clear a few things up. Both brother-in-law and sister-in-law are my husband's biological brother and sister. His 2 brothers and sister were on the trip. Sister-in-law is the harpy, and brother-in-law is the newly divorced brother. I had to cut it out to make the word count. She genuinely loves my children. She messages me her days off asking to babysit. She'll ask to pick up the baby from the daycare, and frequently takes all the kids out on adventures. You don't have to tell me how lucky I am, but maybe it's time I told her how much I appreciate having her in my life. The part about her cooking breakfast does sound a little unfair, but she makes the most amazing pecan caramel cinnamon rolls, and it's become sort of a tradition for her to make them for the kids. As for the harassment from my idiot brother-in-law, Willow and I have been friends since college, and she is tall, confident, and she is very well endowed, both at the front and the back. People stare at her often, and men hit on her all the time. For some reason, when she walks in a room, men just turn stupid. Most of the time, she takes the comments in stride, but for some reason this year, he was just laying it on hard. This, however, is no excuse, and just because this is something that she deals with on a daily, it doesn't mean that she should have to deal with it on vacation. I accept the a-hole ruling for that one, and I will ask my husband to talk to his brother. I've decided to talk to Willow this evening and show her this entire thread. Maybe post an update. Thank you all. Now for the top comments before reading the update. If they want to recruit your friend as their childcare provider, they can ask themselves and not ruin your relationship with her. Just want to check, why does Opie allow her brother to be creepy to her best friend over and over and over again? Why are you putting that on Opie instead of her husband, his brother? Exactly what I was thinking. Opie isn't responsible for brother-in-law's actions. Brother-in-law should stop being creepy because he's an adult and knows how to conduct himself. Not day haul. First, as your friend, I'd appreciate you keeping this boundary if I were Willow. It's nice you know she's a friend and showed it. It's childish your family gets jealous. That's for them to work through their feelings, not for you to placate at the expense of your friend's dignity. They can find a nanny anywhere if they want. Secondly, as a person of color myself, it would add a whole dimension to pass her number around as a nanny. Is that her day job? Otherwise, it's totally out of line. Mother-in-law's insane to think she can hire someone to placate your sister-in-law. Like, huh? She's not some dollar property to be passed around. Sounds like a bad episode of The Help, as if the movie isn't bad enough. Screw them, people. Keep having your friends back. And if you ever tell Willow, it should be to laugh at them. But it would make things uncomfortable for her. I suggest not allowing her to try placating them and babysitting, etc. She likes her godkids. That's her only duty here in my humble opinion. If she's a nanny by profession, it's different. You can ask if she wants new clients. But I wouldn't even. People who are entitled will be rude, and it would put your friend in a bad work environment and risk your friendship. I'd also say to give your friend a heads up like, hey, my family is being freaking crazy and are giving the impression that they want to ask you to sit their kids. I've told them no and to buzz off, but so you aren't blindsided, I'm letting you know. I don't know, giving her a heads up in case they go behind your back and ask her, then turn it around on you saying you said it was okay to ask. Entitled people are crazy. And if they're about to look like fools, they'll put the blame onto someone else. Not stay hell, by the way. And now for the first update. Well, the conversations with his family went as expected. Sister-in-law was apparently holding a grudge from when we went to Vegas for 5 days in January, and Willow kept our kids. We also like to post our date nights on social media, and in her eyes, it's just, and I literally quote, not fair. Reasoning with mother-in-law was like beating my head against a brick wall. She couldn't understand why it was insulting, and thought it was a fantastic way for her to make extra money. Brother-in-law fake apologized for his behavior, citing he was stigmatized, and have you seen her bro? Then he formally asked my husband for his permission to bang his wife's hot black friend. I took the phone, that was on speaker, told him to go screw himself, and hung up. I meet Willow in a couple of hours, and I'm so guilt-ridden, anxious, and just plain angry at myself. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to hand her my phone and just let her read a thread. And now for the final update. Willow came over this evening, and she read pretty much the entire thread. She then told me some of the disgusting comments that she has had to endure from all of the men in his family over the years. She was even jokingly offered money once for just one night of fun. I asked her why she never said anything, and she told me that she was used to it and did not want to bother me. I flat out asked her if any of them had ever touched her inappropriately. She wouldn't give me a straight answer, and I don't want to push it. She was so nonchalant about everything, and all I wanted to do was cry, because even when she was the person wronged, she still tries to protect me. I told her I was so sorry for everything, and that she is under no obligation to be my babysitter, spare my feelings, or put up with my toxic in-laws. I apologized for my complacency in all of this mess, and let her know that I loved her and appreciated all the things that she does for my family. We hung out. We laughed and we cried just like in college. My husband and I both told her that this was our last trip with his family, but whatever decide to for vacation next summer, she's more than welcome to come, as our guest, and she's not allowed to pay for anything. But she doesn't know that yet because she would decline. I know I'm lucky to have her. She's like my sister, and I'm going to start being as good as a friend to her as she is to me. Once again, thank you for all of your insight. I appreciate it more than you know.
Am I the a-hole for telling my brother that maybe he's getting a visit from karma? I have a brother who has laid off from his software job almost a year ago. He hasn't been able to find anything since, and has been complaining on LinkedIn asking people for help. He tried Uber and food delivery, but hated it. Months ago, I told him to simplify his resume and apply for retail or fast food jobs, but he keeps using his tech resume because he thinks it impresses people. After a year of searching, it's clear that it doesn't. Now he's asking if he can move in with me, because he has to sell his house before it goes to foreclosure. I told him no, partly because he has always looked down on me for getting married, and for neither me nor my wife having fancy tech jobs with benefits. My wife thinks he is arrogant and a player, because when he was doing well in his career, he'd always bring around a different woman, and my wife had to pretend to be polite while knowing none of those relationships would last. I told my brother that he should look for a small apartment. He complained that even the cheaper apartments are around $2,500 a month now, and it feels like he'd just be throwing that money away. I explained that my house is already chaotic with 3 kids, and adding him and all his stuff would only make things crazier. He suggested he could buy a shed and store some of his things in a garage until he gets back on his feet. He also mentioned that the commute from my place would be long, but I should understand that he's already weighed the pros and cons, and he thinks he can make it work. I told him I've weighed the pros and cons too, and it's not going to work. When he sells his house, he needs to find somewhere else to live because he's not moving in with us. He told me he'd remember this and that I didn't help him when he was at his lowest. I reminded him that I don't recall him ever helping us when we were struggling, so maybe karma is paying him a visit now. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, but based on the way you talk about him in this post, it also sounds like you don't like your brother. I'm kind of wondering why I thought you'd let him move in with you in the first place. Maybe his ego? I don't know. Man, you definitely don't like your brother, eh? That's another reason I don't have to have him live with me. You're the a-hole. I already know I'll get downvoted, so go ahead. Look, you have every right not to let him move in with you. That's fair. You have your own family to worry about. But your question is whether or not you are the a-hole for telling him that he is getting a visit from karma. Yes you are. And you know you are, which is why you are asking the question. A non-a-hole response to his equally wrong and out-of-line comment would be, I'm sorry you feel that way. I wish I could help, but I really can't. Instead, you elected to shove a knife in and twist it. Whether or not your brother deserves this is immaterial. One is an a-hole based on one's own actions. Your actions were poor. Not the a-hole. You should have bit your tongue and not made that karma comment. But the main thing is that he cannot just demand of you what he does. It is perfectly okay if you don't want him moving in. So clearly, he is the a-hole for trying to press you to do something you don't want to do, and which would have a huge effect on your daily life and on your family. It's nicer than saying my wife can't stand his face. Next story. Am I the a-hole for taking my daughter's college fund back after she said she was going no contact? A bit of background. I'm a 45-year-old single mom of 2 kids, Ella 18 female and Jake 16 male. My husband passed away when the kids were young, and I've worked hard to support them both emotionally and financially ever since. He left behind a life insurance policy, and I've been saving part of that money for their college education. Ella has always dreamed of going to a prestigious college, and we've talked a lot about how important education is. I made sure she knew that the money I was saving for her and Jake was specifically for their education. I couldn't afford things like vacations or new cars, but I wanted them to avoid student loans. However, recently things have become difficult with Ella. She started dating a guy named Matt, 19 female, a few months ago, and I feel like her personality has changed since then. She's become distant, rude, and often dismisses anything I say. She'd say hurtful things, like that I smother her or treat her like a child. I've tried giving her space. But last week, during a heated argument, she said that once she goes to college, she's going no contact with me and won't look back. I was devastated. After everything I've sacrificed for her, hearing that she would cut me out was heartbreaking. I waited a few days to cool down, but I eventually decided that if she truly planned to cut me out of her life after college, I wouldn't continue funding her education. I told her that if she wanted to go no contact, she should consider her college fund off the table, and I would split it between Jake and myself for other things. She was furious and accused me of being vindictive, manipulative, and selfish. She believes I'm trying to control her by using the money against her. I've spoken to a few friends about this, and their opinions are divided. Some say that I'm within my rights since the money is mine to use as I see fit. Others say that I'm punishing her for her feelings and using the money to control her. So am I the a-hole for taking away my daughter's college fund after she said she planned to go no contact with me? No contact would mean no financial contact too. Why is your daughter so surprised that you'd financially cut her off when she cuts contact with you? I have this feeling the new boyfriend is stupid enough to think OP is going to transfer hundreds of thousands of dollars to the daughter to pay for a full college degree. Money that I'm sure he has plans for, and it's not the daughter's tuition and board. That's what I thought too. He wants to cut out the other influences on her, then manipulate her to get the money. If she comes around on a no-contact approach, that's okay, but be wary of him trying to get her to wrest control of the funds in one bite. Depending on how twisted he is, they could fake a breakup, only for her to ask for financial independence a month later. This is not meant to throw shade at OP's daughter. Young love is just more easily exploited than most parents want to realize. There are 2 big questions here. 1, is it the new boyfriend's influence? Or 2, is there an ongoing underlying issue with you and your daughter that you're either not mentioning or not addressing? Of course, we had arguments in the past, but not out of the ordinary. I believe her boyfriend is a bad influence. My best guess is boyfriend knows about the fund. Let her know you have always controlled it, that you sacrificed to not dip into it, that it's never been her money, and how she thinks she could even go to college while not having contact with you about that. I'm not going to weigh in on this because I feel there is not enough context for it. But, OP, there's a good chance your daughter is being abused/manipulated. It sounds like the boyfriend is isolating her. Please keep an open mind that she might be a victim of manipulation. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepmom she's not an incentive for me to change my last name? My parents were never married, so I, 16 male, have my mom's last name. She passed away when I was 5. At that time, my dad was already married to my stepmom. I never really warmed up to her, mainly because I picked up on the tension between her and my mom. After my mom died, things got worse. My stepmom would say things like, "You're finally where you belong," and "I'm so happy you're my little boy now." Those comments made me feel really uncomfortable and unhappy. My dad was never very hands-on as a parent, and whenever I expressed how I felt, he would just tell me to accept being loved. 2 months after my mom passed, my oldest half-sister was born, and with all the changes, I felt really alone and sad. My stepmom was always trying to get closer to me, sometimes even hiring babysitters for an entire day so she could spend time with me to make me love her. It hurt her when I shut her out, but I hated hearing her call me hers. She would tell me that I was hers now and that I needed a mommy. She even used baby talk with me and kept doing it until I was almost 12. I think she thought it would make me warm up to her faster. She also started calling me by my middle name, James, because it was her dad's first name, instead of using my first name. Sometimes she'd ask if I wanted to change my name to James and be Grandpa's Jr. I always said no. When I was around 8 or 9, they tried to change both my first and last name. The first time, they didn't take me to court, but the judge said I needed to be present. So the next time, I was brought to court and asked how I felt about the name change. I said I didn't want to change my name, so they couldn't go through with it. I kept my name, my mom's last name included. It still bothers my stepmom that I don't share their last name. She has 3 girls and really wants her only son to share the same last name as the rest of the family. A few days ago, she talked to me again, trying to convince me to change my first and last name, like they had tried years ago. She told me to do it as a gift to her, saying it would make her really happy, and I could give it to her as a Christmas or birthday present. I told her that she wasn't a reason for me to change my name because I don't want to be her son, and I don't see her as my mom. She started crying and then called me spoiled and bratty. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your stepmom is going to push you into going very low contact after you are of age. They ask, you said no. They need to accept this. And to then call you spoiled and bratty because you want to continue to honor your mom? Not nice. Dad too. He doesn't want to be a parent even though he has 4 kids. I don't respect that, and even less when he lets his wife get away with this kind of thing and backs her up even. Yes, he's the main reason you have to face this situation. He should grow a pair and confront his wife about her attitude. But it's so much easier to let things be and pave the way for a full no contact once you're on your feet. I'm sorry for all this. Big hugs. Not the a-hole. Your stepmom seems absolutely deluded. And your father just seems to want to go along with whatever she wants so that she can be happy, with no regard to your thoughts or feelings. They're giant a-holes for wanting to erase every part of your mother, and especially for trying to force a connection you don't want. I'm very curious, how did your father and stepmother meet? From what I'm getting, it seems like infidelity might have been involved. You're not her son. You don't want a connection with her, and them trying to change your name behind your back is scummy. Perhaps telling her the truth will finally get her to give up on this fantasy she has of you being her child. It's also interesting how quickly she was to turn on you when you rebuffed her affection. Not the a-hole. She needs therapy and needs to learn boundaries. They knew each other growing up and dated in high school but broke up before senior year. She always wanted to get back together with Dad, but before they met up again, he'd met Mom, and they had me. They broke up when I was so young, but even still, I think my stepmom was so jealous that Dad had a kid before they could get back together. It wasn't hard to see she hated my mom back then. There were times she'd look so pissed when she'd see my mom. She is also jealous that Mom had a boy while she had 3 girls. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents to not include my stepdaughter in their will? I, 35 female, have 2 kids, 17, twins, boy and girl, and 1 stepdaughter, 18, when I met when she was 11. The other day, I was at my parents' house going over their estate planning, since I'm the executor. While reviewing their plan, I noticed that they had split their assets in half. 1 half for me and my 2 siblings, and the other half to be evenly distributed among their grandkids, including my stepdaughter. The estate isn't huge, but the amount each grandkid would get is still pretty substantial, thank new car money. I asked my parents about it, and they said they wanted to be fair. While I thought that was very generous of them, I told them I don't think it was necessary for my stepdaughter to be included, and that it would be better to split the inheritance between their 5 biological grandkids. When we got home, my husband told me he had overheard my conversation and said I was being an a-hole for excluding his daughter and potentially alienating her from the family. I explained my reasoning. My stepdaughter is the only child/grandchild/niece on her mom's side, and she is well taken care of. Her grandparents on that side own multiple properties. Her uncles are financially well off and live in a high cost of living area, and there's a good chance she won't have any cousins. Essentially, she's already set up for a life financially. On the other hand, my parents' estates would be split among 5 grandkids, and their collective net worth is significantly lower than my husband's family. I also asked him if his parents had included my kids in their estate planning, but he refused to answer. Despite my reasoning, he still called me an a-hole and accused me of not caring about his daughter's future. I believe I was just trying to be fair and look out for my kids and their cousins. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Everyone is in their feelings about it instead of looking at the actual facts. Your parents have 5 grandkids outside of her. Your parents can always leave her sentimental items. Your stepdaughter will get a large inheritance to herself. Your children aren't in your husband's parents' will. The last one being the biggest one. Why is it okay for them to exclude your children, but not the reverse? We don't support the Hippocratic Oath here. My mom plans on giving her a family heirloom jewelry set that is her birthstone, which I think is nice and thoughtful. It's not that I want to completely exclude her, I just feel it would be more meaningful towards my nibblings and kids. So then she's not left out. I'd ask your husband the exact question I ask. Why is he holding your parents to different standards than his own parents? Not the a-hole. You stated your opinion and it doesn't sound like you pressured them. I think your parents are kind, and it could be explained to your stepdaughter so her feelings wouldn't be hurt. Your husband needs to answer your question. Is your stepdaughter more important to him than his children with you? Does he not care about her future? If the stepdaughter's relatives' money was split with your children, it sounds like your future would be more secure. But I think it would be unfair to expect her relatives to share with unrelated children, and I would think they would not want to do so. I didn't pressure them. I just told them I didn't think it was necessary. I didn't even go into the details with them and left it at that. Nothing was changed over the course of our meeting. She is also set to receive a family heirloom jewelry set from my mom that happened to be her birthstone, which I thought was nice. And I don't expect them to share their assets with my kids. It's only ever been brought up with my husband because of this argument. I know she's set to receive a large portion, including 2 houses, because I saw some paperwork while cleaning my husband's office. It's a bit out of date, so I don't know if there's been an update, but it was drafted and I saw it shortly after he and I got married. I didn't bring it up to him then, because I didn't expect my kids to be included. Last story. Am I the a-hole for suing my best friend of 13 years after he pushed me into a shark-infested waters as a prank? I, 27 male, have been best friends with M, 27 male, for 13 years, and we've always been super close. Last week, we went on vacation to a beach state, and everything was going great, until something happened that changed everything. We were hanging out near a pier, taking pictures. There were hammerhead sharks in the water, clearly visible but far enough away that they weren't a direct threat. Suddenly, out of nowhere, my friend shoved me into the water. I freaked out, screaming, thinking I could die. Thankfully, a lifeguard pulled me out right away, but I was absolutely terrified. When I got out, I saw my friend laughing and filming the entire thing. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even say a word. I just went back to the hotel, packed my things, and finished the trip on my own. Later that night, he sent me the video, still making fun of the whole thing. I felt completely humiliated and betrayed. He had literally put my life in danger for a joke. When I got home, I spoke to a lawyer and decided to sue him. I used the video as evidence and he was served papers yesterday. He called me furious, saying it was just a joke and that I'm overreacting after 13 years of friendship. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. He's a prick. He shouldn't have endangered 13 years of friendship by scaring the heck out of you and possibly injuring you for chuckles. I read a story some years ago about a bridesmaid who pushed the bride into a pool as a joke. Bride broke her neck and was left paralyzed. It's not funny to do pranks like that. Not the a-hole. People really don't realize how dangerous falls or pushing someone can actually be, especially with dangerous surroundings. Am I the a-hole because I didn't invite my father to my wedding because years ago he told me I was no longer a part of his family? I, 28 female, will be getting married next month and did not invite my father to the wedding. But now he's trying to get in touch. I feel like I need to explain the background. It all started when I was 6 years old, when my parents divorced after my dad cheated on my mom with my stepmother. After that, I mostly stayed with my mom. But during holidays and vacations, I would stay with my dad. When I was 8, my half-brother Jake, now 20 male, was born. Whenever I was with my dad, I was forced to take care of him. When I started high school, I had to move in with my dad because my mom had to move abroad for work. This was one of the hardest periods of my life. My stepmother wasn't a bad person. She tried to include me in things, but she was very submissive to my father. As for my dad, he always treated me like an outsider, someone who didn't really belong. I was constantly responsible for taking care of Jake, and whenever I took my stepmother and Jake out, I was never invited. One of the most painful experiences happened when I was 14. My dad announced that the whole family was going to Disney for a vacation, but the day before the trip, he told me he wanted it to be a family moment, their first big trip with Jake, so I was left home alone. This was a pattern. Whether it was trips to the beach, the zoo, or other outings, they always went without me. My dad didn't like me going out with friends or inviting them over, saying teenagers together only cause trouble. He was controlling, calling the house phone at random times to check if I was home, and even had a trusted neighbor to keep an eye on me to make sure I didn't have visitors. By the time I turned 16, the feeling of being an outsider had only gotten worse. Everything I had experienced during vacations, the exclusion, the abandonment, became part of my daily life. Things came to a head when I turned 18. My dad got a promotion and decided to take a family trip to Europe. Since it was my last year of high school, I thought I'd finally be included. But then he told me he didn't have enough money for a trip for 4, so it would just be for Jake's 10th birthday, and I had to stay home. That's when I snapped. I told him he was being unfair and shouldn't have given me a false hope. I explained how it felt over the years, and he called me ungrateful and spoiled, saying I lived with him rent-free, which was a lie, since my mom sent money for my expenses, and I did all the housework because both he and my stepmother worked late. The argument escalated, and he kicked me out of the house, saying I was no longer a part of the family and not even his daughter. He literally threw me out and tossed my things onto the sidewalk. Thankfully, a friend lived nearby and I stayed at her place that night. The next day, I went back to see if my dad had calmed down, but I found my things still on the sidewalk, with some even in the trash. My stepmother had kindly saved a few items for me and handed them over. After that, my dad never reached out, except to call and yell at me a month later when my mom stopped sending him money for my expenses. A few months later, I got into an engineering program in another state, where I met my now fiancé, Mark, 29 male. He was a senior and we quickly connected, realizing we had a lot in common. We started dating, graduated, and now work in the same field, although at different companies. A few months ago, Mark proposed, and I happily said yes. I have social media but rarely use it. I've had Instagram for about 6 years and haven't even posted 10 pictures. I think a relative must have told my dad about the wedding because about a month after I accepted the proposal, he reached out through Instagram, saying he was excited to help with the wedding. I was surprised, both by the message and that he thought he'd be walking me down the aisle. I responded, telling him that my stepfather would be walking me down the aisle and that the wedding would be small, just for close family. After that, I blocked him. Inspired by stories I've read on Reddit, I expected calls, messages, and letters full of insults like ungrateful or spoiled. But instead, I received a letter delivered by Jake. Yes, we're still in contact. In the letter, my father expressed how sorry he was. I won't quote the exact words, but to summarize, he said that after kicking me out, he lived life as if normal with my stepmother and Jake. But when he saw pictures of my graduation with my mom and stepfather, he began to feel regret. He wanted to talk to me, but was too proud to reach out. Now he realizes that his pride got him nowhere, and he wants to fulfill one of the plans he made when I was born, to pay for my wedding and walk me down the aisle. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I've moved on with my life, and his attempt at redemption after all these years feels a bit too convenient. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to include my dad in my wedding despite his apology? Edit. My stepfather is amazing. He always goes out of his way to include me in everything, and my stepsisters are wonderful too. When he found out that my father didn't take me to Disney, he planned a trip for the next holiday and took me, my mother, and my stepsisters. This is one of 1,000 reasons why I want him to walk me down the aisle. For those asking why my mom and stepfather left me with my dad, my mom works as a programmer and accepted a job abroad to save money for college and the future. My stepfather is a researcher and was doing postdoctoral work at the time. My stepsister was the first person to talk to me after I was kicked out. She visited me 2 days later and even stayed for a few days, though I was crying so much I barely remember. I didn't move in with her because she lives in another state, and I was close to finishing my classes and final exams. My bridesmaid and her parents let me stay with them, helped me gather my things, and set up a guest room for me. Now for the top comments. Notice how he only wants to walk you down the aisle to fuel his own ego and fulfill a dream he came up with when you were born. He's not doing this out of the kindness of his own heart or out of genuine love and affection. Based on the responses, I realized that my father's letter feels more like an attempt at control. If I don't invite him to the wedding, he can play the victim, and I'll be seen as the bitter daughter. He'll come across as the devoted father who always dreamed of walking me down the aisle, while I'll be the daughter who can't forgive. If he wants to pull this story, ask him publicly where all the family photos of you are in Disneyland, Europe, etc. No doubt there's pictures, and he can't BS his way that he never took family photos. Family members will put 2 and 2 together if they're not dumb. That's exactly what he wants. He wants his public image of being a good dad on show even though he's a monster. Your sperm donor kicked you out 10 years ago. You owe him nothing. Weddings aren't a time to resolve an issue. Tell Jake that his father isn't your problem. It's your wedding. Sperm donor doesn't get an invite. I hope you have a beautiful wedding and an amazing married life. I loved the terms DNA donor and sperm donor. I really think I'm going to start calling him that. Mark is even joking that my DNA is 90% from my mom, so he can't be called a DNA donor. But yes, I'm looking for the best way to respond to Jake so he starts referring to my dad as the sperm donor. My personality tells me to respond politely, but Mark thinks I should be short and blunt. And thank you. I will plan to make the day as special as possible. It'll be a day just for me and Mark. Next story. I told my daughters that I was moving on with the separation anyway. I found out that my husband cheated on me when I was pregnant, both times. I only found out 3 months ago, and until then, we were a very happy family. My husband is a great dad. Our daughters, aged 14 and 16, know the reason we are getting a divorce, and that he had 2 affairs with 2 women, but they don't know all the details. They are opposed to the idea of divorce, and have threatened to never see me again if I go through with it. because the affairs happened so long ago. I understand that they don't want change and fear their lives being disrupted. I know all of that, but I just can't be with him anymore. I can't even look at him. Nothing is working. Therapy is not helping and they are adamant about never seeing me again. I haven't seen them in 2 months. We currently rent a small studio apartment and we alternate living at the house with the girls. One of us lives in the house while the other stays in the studio. The girls refuse to stay with me at the house during my weeks, but they stay in the studio with my husband. The therapist advised not to change the arrangement, even though I thought I should stay in the studio permanently to give them more space in the house. We bought our house in 2003, and its value has quadrupled. Because of this, we'll be able to afford 2 decent homes, even if they won't be as big and beautiful as this one. It's not like the girls will be living in bad conditions. Before all of this, they were close to both of us and loved us equally. Now, they only love him. Last week, they made it clear that if I file for divorce, they will never see me again. I told them I'm never going back to him, and they said I've made my choice, and they will never see me again. Not the a-hole. Teenagers are stubborn and they think they can force your hand. If you give in to this, you would be setting an example that it's okay to submit to abusive or unfaithful relationships if someone applies pressure. Not something girls should be learning as the norm. Tell them that in their lives, if they ever need to walk out to protect themselves, you will support them, and it's a shame they don't feel the same, but it won't change your intention to do the right thing. I'm worried about what he's saying to them when OP isn't around. When they get older, they'll get wiser and return to mom. Truth always comes out. I 100% agree. I used to think my mom was the best and didn't like my dad. But when we went to get our passports, my dad showed us a message where my mom told him that we had said we felt like he didn't love us anymore. Honestly, that was an eye-opener for me. We were just waiting in line. It wasn't even like we were inside complaining or anything. Later on, I read the divorce settlement. My dad had given my mom about 1.5 million South African rand for properties and other things. He also had to pay for the damage to her car. She had an accident with it. I think she drove it into a tree, while still paying the 1.5 million. On top of that, he has to pay 30K in child support. While I understand it, my mom has barely used any of that money on us. Maybe 2,000 ZAR for spending money, and we're 4 kids, and that's it. We hardly get new clothes. My younger sisters get more than me and my older brother. My dad even pays for new beddings 12 times a year, but we only get new beddings maybe once a year or once every 2 years. My parents divorced and my mom also cheated. Multiple times, actually. I remember sitting at the door waiting for her to come back. I was about 10. From 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. with baths and dinner in between. It took me 7 years to really come to my senses. I wish I could get that time back with my dad. Your daughters will realize what they threw away when all you wanted to do was love them and be there for them. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister I won't raise her child after she abandoned him? I, 21 female, am in college, work part-time, and barely keeping my life together as it is. My sister, 27 female, who has always been more free-spirited than responsible, recently left her 4-year-old son with our parents and disappeared. She quit her job, packed a bag, and went on a soul-searching trip, leaving no real explanation beyond a vague text saying she needed to find herself. Now, our parents are getting older and taking care of a toddler full-time is wearing them down. They've been hinting that I should step up and help more. This has slowly turned into outright suggestions that I should take him in full-time, essentially becoming his guardian. I love my nephew, but I am not in a position to be anyone's mother right now. I have my studies, a tight budget, and no space for a child in my life. I told my parents and sister that while I can babysit here and there, I won't take full responsibility for him. I reminded them that's her child, not mine. When my sister called, I finally confronted her. I told her she needed to figure out her situation and come back for her son. She got angry, accused me of abandoning the family and said I should step up, since I'm the only one who has her life together. My parents are also upset with me. They think I'm being selfish and that I need to grow up and take on more responsibility for the sake of the family. I feel guilty, but at the same time, it's not like I chose to have a child. Am I the a-hole for standing my ground and refusing to become a full-time parent to my nephew? Should I just sacrifice my current life to help my family? Now for the comment. She got angry, accused me of abandoning family. Oh, that's rich. You're the one who's abandoning family? Ha! Tell her to look in the mirror. Not a-hole. I feel so bad for the children in these situations. Please tell her to get her tubes tied so that she doesn't have any more free spirit pregnancies. That's what I choked on too. Girl, I just needed to read the first paragraph. Absolutely not. Not the a-hole. Taking a responsibility your sister doesn't know how to handle will just push you back. Don't even think on doing that. Keep studying, keep working, and keep doing the best you can. I know the kid might struggle, but if you take care of him, it'll be just two people struggling and nobody's gonna be fine. Do the best for yourself. Ignore the rest. Sounds like she picked a winner for a baby daddy if she couldn't dump the kid on his family. Who are we kidding? Her parents are easier and they understand her need to be a free spirit and to find herself. His parents might have just told her to grow the heck up after all. I have a feeling that the sister may not even know who the father is honestly. Being a free spirit, she probably didn't have any exclusive relationships. I could be wrong, but that's the vibe I get from this. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that her child isn't special and we don't have to plan every family gathering around him? I'm 27 and my sister is a few years older with a 2-year-old son. Ever since she had her child, everything in our family seems to revolve around him. I get that she's excited as a new mom and that her life has changed, but it's really starting to get on my nerves. Every single family gathering is planned solely around her child. If we're organizing a holiday, it has to fit his nap schedule. If we choose a location, it has to be kid-friendly. The food, it always has to include something safe for him, even if the rest of us would prefer something else. I can't even have normal conversations with my family anymore because they always end up turning into discussions about her kid, what he did, how he acted, how the doctor's appointment went, or what new word he learned. Every story my sister tells seems to conclude with the idea that her son is the most amazing, extraordinary child ever. I'm happy for her, but it feels like everyone else in the family has become background noise in her child-centered show. A few days ago, I suggested we all go out for dinner one evening at a restaurant so we could finally have some adult time. Just relax and talk, without constantly worrying about her son's needs. My sister immediately shut it down, saying it didn't fit with her son's schedule because his bedtime routine includes a bath, dinner, and then sleep. This wasn't the first time plans got rejected for that reason, but this time I decided to speak up. I told her that her child isn't the center of the universe, and that we don't need to plan every single family gathering around his schedule. I suggested that maybe she could come to just one event on her own and leave the child with her husband or a babysitter so we could enjoy some time without any limitations. She flipped out. She said I was heartless, that I don't understand how hard it is to be a mother, and that I'm an ungrateful sibling who doesn't appreciate her sacrifices. She claimed I treat her child like a burden when, for her, he's the most important person in her life. Since then, we haven't spoken, and now my parents are saying I went too far and that I should apologize because being a parent is a huge responsibility, and my sister has every right to expect support. On one hand, I understand that her child is her priority, but on the other hand, I feel like this has gone too far, and that as a family, we shouldn't constantly have to give up our plans and enjoyment just because her kid has a schedule. Am I really the a-hole for wanting to occasionally have a normal family gathering without always catering to the needs of a toddler? Am I the a-hole? What you should have done is say, "Oh, so sorry you can't make it. We will miss you." And everyone else carried on with the plans. I agree every single plan should not be dependent on a baby's schedule. Not every single time. Great idea. Thanks a lot. Info: which members of your family are advocating for child-free events other than you? As someone who regularly wants child-free time, this is the real issue. Go out with your friends if you want to avoid your nephew. He is part of your family now, and so will be at family gatherings. Am I the a-hole for not backing my wife up when our son says she's no longer his mother? Hi, so I think my wife has single-handedly the cause of all her problems. I'm done pretending I'm at fault. Kind of done with her in general, and I see divorce at the horizon like a bright sunrise. So me and my wife got together in college. Things were fine, and I proposed when I was 23 and she was 22. People might say that's young, and yeah, probably, but we didn't get married until we were 25 and 26. Well, she got pregnant at 24 and we had a son. I want to say, I didn't force her to have him. I told her I'd love to have him. Personally, I was ready, but if she wanted to wait a bit, I'm okay with that too. She chose to go through with the pregnancy. We started getting ready for the baby, and I told her because of our living situation, if she wants, she can go back to work and continue her career. We can afford a long-term babysitter. Our living situation is, my aunt and uncle are successful and they own a second home where we live. We just pay bills like electricity and stuff. Not bad at all, so we have extra cash. She said no. She wants to stay with our son and be a stay-at-home mom. Sure, I don't care. I'm fine with that. Bond with our baby. Well, she got PPD and didn't bond with the baby. I told her to go to therapy because this wasn't going to fly. Me bringing in 100% of the money, me paying 100% of the bills, me taking care of our baby 100% of the time that I'm at home. She didn't want to work, and she refused to care for the baby, so I had to get a babysitter every Monday through Friday anyway. I was sympathetic at first. I get it, having a baby is difficult. But 2 years of that and you start resenting them for not doing anything and refusing to get help. Constant fighting about her doing nothing and how I'm tired of being with her. I told her at one point it was either get help or I'm divorcing her, and she can go back to live with her parents at the age of 27, which they've made it aware they won't be happy with that. She went back to work, but not her college degree career. No, she chose to work at the local cigarette shop store. At this point, I just didn't care. It was something good enough. I just became indifferent. We stopped being intimate. We stopped talking about anything other than our son. We're basically roommates. That's our marriage. He's now 17. Me and my wife got into it because I told her I'm done. Completely done. Our son is almost 18. He's preparing himself for college, which is completely paid for by me and his grandparents. And when he's gone, I'm gone. She freaked out. Told me I'm worthless. She wishes she never met me. She hates she got pregnant and wished she aborted our son when I told her she could. He overheard, obviously, and he came out and yelled at her and told her, "Fine, have it your way. You're not my mother anymore. Go F yourself." Well, in my opinion, reap what you sow. She's now upset he wants nothing to do with her. It's been 2 months and he does not talk to her or interact with her in any way. He works a part-time job. He buys everything he needs. He has his own car. He doesn't need her for anything. If he needs something, he asks me for extra cash for help with his car. Things like that. But he avoids her like the plague. She's mad at me and wants me to make him talk to her, and I said me and her are done, which I've made clear. I don't know what she's expecting from me. But if he's also done, then maybe she shouldn't say things she doesn't mean. If he wants to forgive, then he can. But I'm not going to make him, or even suggest that he should. He's old enough to make his own decisions and understand his feelings. I'd be hurt if my parents said that about me. I don't know if I'm the a-hole. If I am, then it is what it is. But I guess I want an outside opinion. I'm not willing to do anything different, but just want to know because her friends have been harassing me saying I'm a bad husband. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She's the one who said all of the hurtful things. That is on her. I understand your son's position. He is not in the wrong. Just keep a strong relationship with your son and let him know that you never regretted having him as your child. Her friends can go piss up a rope. Me and my son are close. I told him I've always wanted him and I'm proud of who he is becoming as a man. I did make it clear his feelings are his own. If he ever does forgive his mother, then that's great. If not, then that's okay as well. It's his life. Despite her thinking so, I'm not encouraging his behavior, but I don't disagree with it either. Are you going to divorce her? I am assuming you stayed married for your son. Please go have a life and be happy. You are young, and whoever you meet, you will at least know what you don't want. She used her words to hurt you, and lo and behold, her son heard her. What the heck does she expect him to do? What the heck does she think you can do to fix it? You didn't say it. She's suffering the consequences of her actions. She's going to have a very long road ahead of her, waiting for your son to forgive her. I can also promise you that your son doesn't want you to suffer for him anymore. Stand strong for yourself and your son. Don't give her anything anymore. Just let her find her own way. She has a college degree, so it's not like she's unable to find work in her field. You have dreams, I am sure, so begin fulfilling them now. Yeah, divorce her now, for your son. Show him you value him and will not allow him to live with that kind of resentment toward him and his home. I'm sure he has picked up on it over the years. I come from a situation like this. Staying together is not helping you or him. Your bond will be stronger if you still have some time at home with him to be a happy family unit, the two of you. Your wife, hopefully soon to be future ex, will only negatively color the time you still have at home with your son before he leaves. It's best to not expose him to any more emotional abuse or manipulation, and to make it clear he has a safe home with you so that he will want to come home in the future. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not sharing my trust fund with my step-siblings? I'm 17 male and my parents divorced 2 years ago. Nothing crazy happened. The marriage was just not working out. My mom remarried and I have 2 step-siblings. My dad did not. My grandfather on my dad's side is really old and he eventually drafted up a will. While he was writing it, he eventually met with me and my dad. He told us that before he died, he wanted to make sure I would be okay in the long run. So he's setting up a trust fund for me and my dad will be the trustee. I won't be accessing this trust fund until I graduate college. I'm not sure how much it is, but my dad said it's in the 6 figures. This was all planned. My grandpa wanted to make sure I was fully set up for life since I'm his only grandson and we are very close. He has no one else to leave anything to besides me and my dad. Due to the divorce, I spent half my time with my dad and half with my mom. As I mentioned before, my mom remarried someone with kids. My step-siblings are around my age, and while I get along with them okay, we're not super close. They're cool at all, and I don't have any dislike towards them, but I don't really see them as my siblings. They don't see me that way either. Recently, my mom ended up finding out about my grandpa's plans to leave me a trust fund. My stepdad and her sat me down on the couch and said we need to discuss my trust fund. They told me since I'm getting a lot of money, I should share it with my step-siblings. Their reasoning is that we're all family now, and it wouldn't be fair for me to have all this wealth while my step-siblings get nothing. They feel that since my grandpa's giving me such a valuable asset, I should use it to help everyone out. Especially because my step-siblings aren't in a good financial situation and will need to afford college. While I understand where they're coming from, I don't think it's fair to expect me to share the property. This trust fund is coming from my grandpa, who has no relationship or obligation to my step-siblings. He specifically wants me to have it, and it feels wrong to go against his wishes by giving part of it away to people he's not connected to. I also can't access this money until I graduate college, so it's not like I can even do anything with it right now. They want my money to pay for their kids' colleges, but by the time I access the money, they would have graduated college by then, or have been in their last year. Also, they're saying my step-siblings are in a bad financial situation, but this isn't completely true. They may not be able to afford a lot of colleges, but they can definitely go to a state school, and that's still really good. When I told my mom and stepdad how I felt, they got upset and said I was being selfish and not thinking of the family as a whole. They think I'm being greedy for wanting to keep everything for myself, even though I don't feel like it's their place to ask me to share something that was never meant for anyone but me. I told my dad and grandpa about it, and my grandpa was angry and called my mom and stepdad and told them that the trust fund is for me and no one else, and they have no right to it. Obviously, I'm conflicted. I don't wish anything bad on my step-siblings, but my grandpa obviously left me money to give me a head start in life. After college, that money will be super useful for investments, housing, and other stuff. If I use it to pay for my step-siblings' college, I probably won't have much left. My mom and stepdad are being cold towards me and my step-siblings have no idea what's going on. I'm starting to reconsider now because I don't want to ruin the relationship with my mom and her husband. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but tell your dad and grandpa. My guess is grandpa will bring the hammer down. I would. Pretty sure mom's request was foreseen by granddad, and a big part of the reason he set the trust up in the way he did. Definitely talk to dad and granddad. Whatever you do not share that money. Tell your father. What your mother is doing is pure manipulation and disgusting. She should be ashamed to call herself your mother. Such a disgraceful POS. Not a-hole. Involve your father. I did. He called her and basically yelled at her for it. As the trustee, he told me he will make sure my mother will never see a penny of that trust fund. Since you are 17, see if you can live with your father full-time. They have shared custody of me, so I don't know how that would work. It's only 1 more year, then I could do whatever I want. I know, but I'm just concerned about the emotional and verbal abuse you may go through living with your mom. Right now it's silent treatment, but I'm at my dad's, so it's going well. Thanks for the concern. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter I won't budge even if she never speaks to me again? My daughter, Casey, 17 female, worked and saved up money for around a year to be able to afford a better car than we could buy her with our family budget. My other daughter, Alana, 16 female and has ADHD, recently got her driver's license and asked to drive Casey's car. Casey allowed it, but Alana ended up having a bad accident around 6 months ago, which basically rendered the car unusable. The insurance payout wasn't nearly enough to cover the replacement, and with Alana's medical bills from the accident, thankfully there was no permanent damage, just a broken arm and leg. There was no way we could afford to replace Casey's car immediately. Alana was very apologetic to Casey, and so were we, since we couldn't afford to replace her car. Casey didn't accept our apology, and has been basically avoiding us, skipping family dinners, and pretty much pretending that her mom, Alana, and I don't exist, and only talks to us if she needs a form signed for school. I begged her to come to a family therapy session, and she eventually relented, but with the condition that Alana wouldn't be present. In the therapy session, she told us that she won't be resuming a relationship with us until we replace her car, which realistically won't be until next year. When the therapist asked how she expected us to do that, Casey said we would just make Alana work to earn the money. The issue is that Alana has severe ADHD and already has trouble managing her schoolwork. I'm worried that making her work to earn the money will harm her grades and have significant ramifications for her future. Casey said, "Well, she should have thought about that before destroying my car. I don't care. I'm not gonna speak to any of you unless I have my car replaced." I responded that she was free to avoid speaking to me for as long as she wanted to, but I'm not going to permanently harm her sister's future to get her a car earlier. My wife agrees with me that we need to stand firm in our position, but is also genuinely afraid of Casey never speaking to her ever again. I understand that her car was ruined, but as a parent, I need to look out for all my children, not just one. I also don't want to set the precedent that emotional blackmail will work, even if what you're asking for is unreasonable. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Anyone wondering how much convincing it took for Casey to let Alana drive her car? I'm not wondering. I'm already convinced that Casey allowing it was reluctant at best and coercion at worst. No convincing at all. We weren't even involved in a convo between them. You're the a-hole. As much as I doubt that you had no influence in Casey agreeing to let Alana use her car, it doesn't change the fact that Alana is responsible for working to replace the car. She needs to learn responsibility. I have a sibling who has severe ADHD and has been medicated for it for as long as I can remember. It has never impeded on his ability to hold down a job and or be successful working and going to school. Alana is learning that there are no consequences for her actions. That is not real life. What would you expect of Alana if this was one of her friends' cars and they expected it to be replaced? Would you come up with the money, expect her to get a job, or would you tell them too bad so sad? You have an opportunity to teach her a huge lesson here. Take it. Don't risk losing one kid to mollify and favor the other. Do better. It's telling that Alana wasn't driving mom or dad's car. Wonder why? I'm with Casey on this one. You're cuddling your youngest. And you have no idea if having a job could actually help your youngest learn to manage her time. You left your oldest hanging. If Alana can get her driver's license, she can get a job. Last story. My husband considered it stealing when I sold his expensive watch to pay for our son's procedure. Am I the a-hole? My 6-year-old son had a medical issue and needed to have a procedure. My husband hasn't worked for 9 months after leaving his previous job, and my salary is barely enough to get us by. My husband bought some expensive things when he used to get paid. He had a high-paying job and saved no money, but instead bought some expensive stuff for himself. He had to sell most of it to be able to buy new clothes or get a new iPhone. He had an expensive wristwatch that he was keeping to wear at important occasions. We discussed coming up with money to pay for the procedure, and he refused to give up the watch and told me to find some other way to get the money when he knows I can't. He suggested that our son stays on meds to manage the pain till I come up with the money. But the procedure was advised as soon as possible. I just could not bear seeing my son going through so much pain, so I went ahead and sold the watch and paid for the procedure. My husband found out and immediately said that he considered this stealing and said that he won't look at me the same anymore. He didn't yell or react harshly, just kept saying that I committed theft and that I overstepped and betrayed his trust. After that, he stopped saying anything else to me, just that what I did was stealing. His family sided with him, and his mom, whom I'm not on good terms with, suggested that he either divorce me or get a lockbox to keep his stuff safe, since I stole from him before. I was so devastated by how I was treated and thought that I was doing the right thing. Now he's making me feel like what I did was really stealing, regardless of the reason why I did what I did in his opinion. Was it really stealing? Am I the a-hole? Take up your mother-in-law's advice and divorce him. He was happy to see your son, who I presume is also his, in pain for the sake of a watch. Ask yourself what he actually contributes to the marriage or your and your son's life. He is a mooching mama's boy, and you deserve more. OP is already supporting the household on her income alone. Getting rid of the mooch will save her money on food expenses. She definitely needs to move all her income into a lockbox, aka a separate account to stop him stealing it, if not already done that. As said, trust is blown. Not a-hole. It may or may not have been stealing legally speaking. But morally, you did the right thing. I would have done the same in your situation. Your husband suggesting jeopardizing your son's health and subjecting him to unnecessary suffering for the sake of a freaking watch is sick. I would 100% steal to pay for my son's surgery if he was sick and in pain, and I wouldn't feel bad about it. Especially if the person I was stealing from was the other parent. I mean, honestly, is it even stealing in this case? I don't think it is. I know this sounds bad, but I'd sell myself if it meant my kid wasn't in pain and save them.